in the fullness of God love, I Nada, Chohan of the sixth ray, address you in the fullness of the ray of God that desires to stretch forth its heart, its wisdom, its will, as the individualization of each God flame, imparting the divine attributes of service to God in life. The fullness of this ray oftentimes is experienced in the beginning as throwing off all of the accoutrements of one's comfortable life and focusing totally and completely upon the flame of God, so that there are no distractions, no confusions with which to take one's attention, many details that require the outer mind to be constantly delving into human creation, but solely and completely surrendering to the very presence of God. You have understood these building blocks as you have studied now the blue flame of the will of God, and how all-important it is to be comfortable in that will. And even when there is not comfortability, you know it to be the truth that is the highest purpose for you, for it is the will of your God presence. And so you hold on, staying the course. You have understood that the transfer of God power comes when you are fully and completely in alignment with that will. Once you have learned how to be in the power of God, you must understand the wisdom that is required of you to utilize that power wisely. And not only the power of the will of God, but illumination's flame bears upon all God qualities for you to gain the attainment that your presence desires. So even in the exercising of God love, giving it unconditionally, entering into the activity of the flow of that love as you draw forth the desire body of God into your outer vehicles to fill the will of God and to be wisely used in illumination's flame, you understand it requires purity. As you have received the white fire of the fourth ray of purity, purity that holds the Edenic blueprint and pattern for all of life. And so as each ray in its divine and holy purpose, fully sanctified and deposited upon the altar of your heart, begins to create, you learn how to draw forth the emerald ray of God and to stretch forth the creative hand of your service to God in life, with all manner of creation, whether it be thought, word, deed, or any form that is created. You have amalgamated now 5 of the glorious God qualities of the natural estate of your mighty I Am Presence, so that you can then be the servant of God. You can draw forth all of these gifts into the glorious attainment of the sacrifice of the heart, as you serve God in life in all of the varied ways that have been extended to you. As a son and daughter of God, it is vast beyond your imagination, the areas in which you may serve God. But what is important is not all of the variations, but what is divinely intended as the directing intelligence of the mind of God for you to master. Where are you to draw the attainment of your own causal body momentum, of all of the rays of God quality that you have already placed your attention upon so masterfully? What is the essence that you were to draw forth? How will you give of your own God presence into life? Where is the opportunity for you to draw forth the ruby fire of your heart, so that it can pierce through the darkness in the consciousness of those that need to have the hand of God move in their life? This is why many of the servants of God, as priests, ministers, lay shepherds, and shepherds of the temple, call forth this glorious purple and gold ray that always streams forth in the most intense love of God, guided and guarded by great wisdom of the teachings of cosmic law, to the best of their ability in whatever service they render, so that they might assist God in life, holding each one in the comfort flame that courses through them as the integration of the spiritual centers of their being with the mighty I Am Presence. And they stand as a pillar of fire. It is hoped by the Brotherhood of Light that the many servants of God in the earth will learn of these cosmic laws and the qualities of God that are available to them to master and attain, so that there can be a greater substance of God consciousness poured out in the land to bring truth, wisdom, purity, God love, and divine purpose in life. Many of you have taken those steps in your own individual life to purge those unnecessary activities that do not gain the attainment or foster the divine will of your God presence on the screen of life. You have understood that there are those areas of life that you are called upon to participate in, that will build the character of the virtues of the Christ that you desire to hone, to follow in the footsteps of those Christed life streams that have gone on to win their own ascension in the light, to wear the robes of the priest and priestesses, to give of your talents, to alleviate the pain and the suffering of those in need, to assist in the teaching and instruction to those who are hungry for more of the substance of God, for you to have enough peace in your life that you are right with the mighty I Am presence, regardless of the circumstances presented to you in your life. You are proving the law. And indeed, it is cosmic law that we speak of on the sixth ray. For you cannot engage in the assistance of any part of life, or the drawing forth of any of the attainment and mastery of your own mighty I Am presence and causal body momentum, if there is not sufficient peace in your life. For it is in that peace that you know God. It is there that you know the law, what you can lawfully do for another, and where you must hold the balance while they make their own decisions, they make their own choices in life, only to stand aside and hold the flame of God. You may give the teaching and instruction, but it is not lawful to tell another what they must do, for it is not going to bear fruit if it does not come from within their own heart flame, that right action according to the law of their mighty I Am presence. Are you beginning to understand the complexities of the sixth ray, to most in their outer consciousness? For it is not enough to have a single-eyed vision of one God quality with which you serve. Or when you engage in the service of God, you are called upon to wear the multicolored robes not unlike David wore in preparation for becoming Jesus in his mission. Look at that life stream and the glorious work that was accomplished, but the great labor to reach that attainment and mastery, and how the oneness with God was what won out in all cases. That was what allowed for the victory. And that is what will allow for your victory, blessed ones. For it is the victory of your mighty I Am presence. You are the temple of your presence. When you are exercising the fullness of the qualities of God that allow for the overshadowing of the Holy Christ presence, and ultimately the will of the mighty I am. Cosmic law, blessed hearts, is not subjective to the human mind. You cannot look at those areas of life that seemingly on the outer are afforded some grace, benevolence, comfort, or ease, and think it is because they somehow have within them the Spirit of God that warrants all of that. You know not the initiations that go on behind closed doors or beneath the garment. For blessed hearts, the greatest abundance upon the earth can bring the greatest pain and suffering and distance from the mighty I Am presence. While the greatest of the glories that should be aspired toward is the very presence of God in your midst. That is what allows for the faithful servant of God to be willing to sacrifice their all in the service of God. You do not serve the outer persona of another, the circumstance of another. You do not have sympathy for their plight. You have compassion that washes over them with God love and the comfort flame of your own holy Christ presence. You have divine teaching that you can lower into your consciousness by your training from this very altar that can guide that one to put their attention upon their own God presence, to call forth the violet flame, to call forth the healing of the emerald ray, or to come closer to God as the will of God in their own life, so that they might learn how to listen to the inner voice of God and know what is true. For it is the resonant vibration of their own heart flame that ratifies the truth of God. That, blessed ones, allows for the one who has made the path to the ascension their all in life, the greatest of professions, if you will, the greatest of service to all. Along the way, you have karma to be balanced. You have responsibilities that you have taken on, much of that respective to your karma. You have made decisions ill-advised that must be unwound by the violet flame or the ruby fire of the heart. You must exercise illumination's flame in your life to begin the process of putting into motion a way of life for you that allows you to be a greater servant to God. And if the sons and daughters of God upon the earth are to achieve the goal of the ascension in the light and the fulfillment of a golden age for the earth. There will, by necessity, be required more Christed individuals, wearing the mantle of their own attainment, walking the earth, collectively coming together, raising their voices on high, and giving the call to the hierarchy of light to assist in the service to God in life, so that there can be an upliftment of the consciousness of mankind. That requires the light of God. And for the light of God to come forth, even to the meekest of servants of God, there can be great power anchored in the earth, affording the assistance that is required to expand God upon the earth, expand God in the consciousness of mankind, displace the human consciousness and the self-absorption, and put on the garment of light. Many of the saints of old that you have heard the stories of went through great suffering and pain to accomplish the closeness to God, for they did not have the teaching that you have of the glorious rays of God qualities. They did not have the closeness of the Chohans in many cases, nor did they know who they could call upon to assist them, so they suffered through their karma. You blessed hearts have been given the kingdom of God, and in that kingdom awaits you your glory. Draw upon it. Allow for your service to God in life to be enough for you. I promise you, blessed hearts, that with each step you take on the path to serving God, you will discover a new abundance of God reality in your own life. You will feel a love of God that you have not felt before. You will feel a holy purpose, perhaps not present before. There will be wisdom that you will garner by the application of illumination's flame that has not dawned on your outer consciousness heretofore. And when you are in the will of God, you are in bliss, and you will have the stamina with which to carry out your mission. For the power of God will be able to be released to you, for you have trained your vehicles of consciousness to be worthy of the power of God, to use it wisely for the good, for the holiness, the sanctity of life. It is my joy to serve on the Karmic Board, as well as Chohan of the sixth ray. I am most aware of the karmic patterns that you, one and all, are laboring under. But you must know by now there is a great deal of that karma that has been held in abeyance, because you elected to raise your torch on high and proclaim, I am a son and daughter of God. I am a torchbearer of the temple, and therefore I will serve God. I will give the call to Saint Germain for the violet flame. I will call forth the rays of God consciousness. And I will make room in my life for God. And because of that, the Karmic Board has been able to set aside a great deal of karma that the torchbearers of the temple might otherwise have had to live out. But that does not mean that you can stop giving the violet flame. And I will leave that to Saint Germain to explain why. You, blessed hearts, must understand that you are given all that you require. And for the fulfillment of the purple and gold robes that you desire to wear in a life of service, releasing the ruby fire and conveying the purest of God love and the God qualities of your attainment. That, blessed ones, is a service that you are fitted for, you are worthy for, and the fullness of that service awaits you. The glory of God is worth it. To stand in the presence of God is nothing like the rest of life ever experiences when God has been pushed away, when there is not the flow of God effortlessly flowing through the spiritual centers of one's being and announcing that God is in the temple. God is present, and as such, you can count on God. Let the love of your heart for God be greater than the love of the outer self, and you will begin to recognize what it means to serve God. The masters that serve on the sixth ray are many. They are not just those that you know of as the Elohim of the sixth ray, the Archangel and Archai of the sixth ray. No, blessed ones, every ascended and cosmic being that serves mankind, at one point or another dawns the fullness of the sixth ray in their service to God in life for the sons and daughters of God. They all know what it means to stand in this ray. So when you think of the pharaohs of hierarchy, you can think sixth ray. You can see all of the God qualities, all of the virtues of the Christ, all of the pranic breaths that you will discover. But they will amalgamate in service to God in life in an action of the purple and gold ray, so that each one may be ministered to in that appointed hour. Let that light so shine forth as a ruby fire that it pierces the darkness, the veils of Maya and illusion, and brings forth those true servants of God into action to fulfill their divine plan and expand God in life.